You already hold a kind of quiet brilliance, an untapped intelligence that's been sitting just beneath the surface, waiting to be awakened. Most people don't realize it, but every interaction is filled with hidden messages. The way someone crosses their arms when you speak, the flicker in their eyes when certain topics come up, even a forced smile or an awkward laugh that lingers half a second too long, these aren't random habits. They're psychological fingerprints, silent confessions echoing beneath the noise. This isn't just another motivational rant or empty list of tips. This is a deep unraveling of the human psyche, a layered experience where each insight connects like a puzzle piece to the next. Miss one, and the entire picture gets distorted. But if you stay with me, really stay, you'll begin to see people differently, sharper, clearer. And more importantly, you'll uncover parts of yourself that have been quietly influencing everything, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for you to notice. From the moment we learn to speak, we're conditioned to believe that words are the ultimate expression of truth. But nature, the philosopher who tore through illusions like a blade through silk, warned us otherwise. He saw language not as a bridge to honesty, but as a veil, a carefully woven disguise stitched together by fear, pride, and unmet desires. That person who seems endlessly kind might be offering warmth not out of love, but as a shield against abandonment. The one who walks with an aura of certainty could be quietly collapsing inside, clinging to a single thread of belief just to make it through the day. We don't wear these identities because we're liars. We wear them because rawness, realness, unfiltered emotion, it's dangerous. It leaves us naked in a world that's often too brutal to bear. Nature didn't say the deepest souls hide behind masks to deceive. He said they must wear them to survive. Not out of cowardice, but because the world demands it, because protection, in this harsh terrain, sometimes looks like performance. But even the strongest armor eventually reveals its fractures. No matter how well rehearsed the act, the truth always leaks through in the smallest, most involuntary gestures. It's in the sudden shift of the eyes, in a smile that arrives too quickly or fades too slowly, in laughter that sounds more like a defense than delight. These moments, quick, almost invisible, are the windows into everything someone tries to hide. They are not accidents. They are confessions disguised as habits. Watch closely when someone changes the subject too fast, when their voice falters on certain words, when silence suddenly grows heavy. That tension is not meaningless. It's a clue. It's the body remembering what the mind tried to forget. Discomfort isn't noise, it's the clearest signal. It's the truth bleeding through the cracks in the mask, and if you listen closely enough, you'll hear exactly why it was ever needed in the first place. And then comes projection, one of nature's most piercing revelations. When someone lashes out at arrogance, pay attention, it might be their own fear of being seen as arrogant that drives their fury. When they're obsessed with exposing liars, look closer, the real deception might be the one they're living with inside. The mind is clever at misdirection. We often hurl judgment at others not because we see them clearly, but because we're trying to silence something unsettling in ourselves. The traits we condemn are often the ones we're secretly at war with within. So if you really want to understand someone, don't just listen to what they admire, listen to what they can't stand. What they mock, what they shame, what makes them irrationally angry, that's where the truth leaks out. That's where their hidden self comes forward, cloaked not in light, but in rejection. Silence is the richest vein in the conversational mind. Ask a pointed question and notice the sudden brevity, the clipped syllable that lands like a slammed door, the half-formed answer suspended in midair. That pause carries more truth than a 5-minute speech. Many people pour out words the way magicians toss glitter, dazzling, distracting, designed to pull your eyes away from the trapdoor of their own insecurities. Yet when the noise dies and they glance at the floor, clear their throat, or pivot to a safer topic, you've struck the nerve they dare not expose. In that fragile hush, you're witnessing the heartbeat of their fear, the secret they're still negotiating with themselves, the raw confession they hope no one ever hears. Be cautious of the virtue that shouts. When someone can't stop declaring how moral, honest, or principled they are, When they seem obsessed with spotlighting others' flaws, it's rarely about righteousness. More often, it's their own inner chaos begging for control. Nature recognized this as the will to power wearing the mask of morality. The louder the performance of goodness, the more likely it's concealing something fractured beneath. People don't start by lying to the world, they begin by lying to themselves. I'm okay. It doesn't bother me anymore. I've moved on. These aren't just lines rehearsed for others, they're repeated in the mirror until illusion feels like truth. And that's not evil. It's survival. Nature saw self-deception not as weakness but as armor, built to endure what the psyche can't yet face. So when someone's story starts to contradict itself, when their words don't match their eyes or their timelines crumble under scrutiny, understand, they're not just misleading you. They've spent far longer trying to convince themselves. That's what cracks in the narrative reveal, not deceit, but a mind quietly unraveling from the inside. When someone loudly claims superiority, what you're often witnessing isn't strength, it's compensation. That need to dominate, to prove, to remind others of their worth, usually stems from a place they themselves are unsure of. Real confidence moves quietly. It doesn't need applause or validation, it simply exists, steady and unshaken. But those who constantly boast, belittle, or posture are often guarding something raw and unhealed. Their pursuit of power is rarely about others, it's about protecting the fragile scaffolding of their own self-worth. Strip away the bravado, and you'll often find fear sitting at the core. Fear is the ghost in every room, guiding our overreactions, our silence, our need to be liked, our retreat from conflict. It whispers that we might lose love, respect, belonging, or purpose. And so we grasp, perform, withdraw, or fight, not for dominance, but to preserve the pieces of ourselves we believe the world could reject. If you really want to understand someone, don't just ask what they desire, ask what they're afraid of losing. That question doesn't just reveal motive. It unlocks the truth hiding behind every smile, every sigh, and every carefully chosen word. Criticism often reflects more about the critic than the target. When someone lashes out at oversensitivity, it's usually because they're wrestling with emotions they've buried. When they mock vulnerability, it's not strength, they're shielding old wounds they've never dared to face. Harsh judgment is rarely about others. It's a projection of unhealed pain, a spotlight turned outward to avoid illuminating what aches within. The more passionately someone condemns, the more likely they're at war with themselves. It's not just about what they're attacking, it's about who they're refusing to acknowledge inside. And that outward confidence we so often admire. It's frequently guilt dressed in authority. Those who appear to lead without hesitation, who seem immune to doubt, are often carrying unresolved shame just beneath the surface. They wear certainty like armor, not because they feel whole, but because they fear falling apart. True peace doesn't need to announce itself. Real confidence doesn't perform. It exists quietly, rooted in self-acceptance, untouched by the need for applause. Exaggeration is often a flare shot from a fragile psyche. When someone loudly claims, "I don't care what anyone thinks," it's rarely defiance, it's usually a desperate attempt to silence the voice inside that cares far too much. When they proclaim constant happiness or an unshakable mindset, they're not revealing truth, they're building a fortress to keep even a whisper of pain from breaking through. Absolutes like these don't express certainty, they mask instability. They're emotional disguises, bold statements used to shield delicate states of mind. And perhaps nothing reveals inner unrest more clearly than the hunger for control. The person who needs every detail managed, who panics at spontaneity, who clings to strict routines, they're not just organized. They're building walls against internal chaos. The stricter the order outside, the more unsettled things are within. It's not about preference, it's about survival. Authority that lacks softness, control that never breathes, these are not signs of strength. They're silent cries from someone trying to anchor themselves in a world that feels like it's constantly shifting beneath their feet. Nowhere is the theater of insecurity more vividly staged than on social media. The endless stream of polished selfies, curated captions, and forced smiles isn't proof of joy, it's a plea not to be forgotten. These highlight reels are less about confidence and more about fear, fear of silence, fear of being invisible, fear that without constant validation, we might vanish into irrelevance. So they perform. Because the spotlight, however artificial, helps drown out the emptiness echoing inside. And often, when someone mocks or ridicules others online, it's not rooted in disdain, it's a distorted expression of longing. The harshest critics are sometimes the most quietly envious, wishing they could embody the same freedom, self-expression, or clarity they so loudly reject. It's easier to sneer than to celebrate. Because envy, when unacknowledged, quickly curdles into contempt. And shame, too afraid to speak openly, hides behind sarcasm and judgment. But if you can learn to hear the admiration behind the insult, the yearning behind the bite, you've just uncovered an opening, a place where resentment might be transformed into understanding, and where healing could finally begin. Perhaps the most haunting truth is this: we are not as free as we think. Our behaviors aren't random, they're echoes, reverberations of wounds we never fully understood. Nature believed we don't invent our roles, we inherit them, unconsciously acting out scripts written in childhood. The person who talks over others isn't rude, they were raised in silence, always ignored. The one who dismisses feelings isn't cold, they were taught emotions were dangerous or shameful. The perfectionist chasing gold stars isn't driven by ambition, they're still chasing the love they never quite received. These patterns aren't personality quirks, they're emotional survival strategies, whispers from a past still echoing in the present. So next time you're in a room, don't just hear the noise, listen between the lines. The interrupter is begging not to disappear. The loud, certain voice is terrified of being irrelevant. The one who shrinks from intimacy isn't shallow, they're simply scared of being fully seen. We're not surrounded by enemies or strangers, we're surrounded by children in grown bodies, still trying to make sense of the world that once hurt them. What you're witnessing isn't dysfunction, it's a deeply human attempt to feel safe, even if no one ever taught them how. This insight isn't meant to cut, it's meant to open. It's not a weapon to tear others down, but a key to unlock a deeper kind of seeing. Real compassion begins the moment you stop reacting to someone's armor and start recognizing the frightened child still hiding underneath. Judgment softens into understanding. Conflict gives way to quiet grace. With this awareness, you don't rise above others, you lean closer. You become a mirror, not to reflect flaws, but to show people what's been buried: truth, softness, longing, pain. You hold up a kind of silent invitation, not to defend, but to be real. And here's where everything changes: what you notice in others isn't separate from you. Every insecurity you spot, every defense mechanism, every false confidence, every unspoken ache, they're echoes of your own inner life. They're maps to places inside you that still want healing, still seek connection, still long to be known. Nature taught that we don't just judge what we dislike, we judge what we recognize. And we don't just admire others, we're drawn to the forgotten brilliance already living inside us, waiting for permission to rise. So pause for just a breath and turn inward. Which thread tugged at something buried inside you? Which moments felt a little too familiar? What disguises do you see worn around you every day, and which ones have quietly settled on your own face? Let this be more than reflection, let it be recognition. The truths we uncover in others are often reflections of our own unspoken stories. So if something stirred in you, don't run from it. Lean in. Let's create a space where honesty doesn't have to hide, where we meet each other not with polished personas, but with presence. This isn't the end of anything, it's the doorway. There are deeper truths still waiting to surface, layers of emotion still aching to be understood, and parts of you, so real, so powerful, that have been waiting in silence to finally be seen. Together, let's move forward, mask by mask, moment by moment, into the wholeness we were always meant to reclaim.